So for task 0, told to write a Python script using this REST API. So this is the URL, and we are to grab the employee ID and then information about his or her to-do list, and then we must use the your lib or request module, and then the script must accept an integer as a parameter, which is going to be the employee ID, and we are to display the employee to-do list progress in this Excel format. So first line is going to be employee name is done. If the employee is Antoine, I think it's Antoine. Antoine is done with task 8/10, which is if the status of the task of the completed task, let's say status is true, the 6 of them is true, it's going to be 6 over total of all the tasks, which is 10. Let's say 6/10, and then the next line should be the title of the tasks that are completed. That is going to go with a tab and then followed by the title. So here we've imported the request module for making the HTTP request, and then sys module for grabbing the command line argument, and we are going to be writing this in the main, and we've defined the base URL. Then since we are expecting an employee ID as a command line argument, we are going to create an employee ID variable and then use the sys module to grab the argument from command line. Employee ID. So this will grab the first argument in the command line. So next is to make an HTTP GET request to the API using request.get, and then to user response. We use user response because whatever response we are going to get is going to be saved into this variable, and then we use the request.get method. First we pass in the base URL, and then we add the users because users is the endpoint of our target. So we use the dot format, and then we pass in the employee ID. That is the ID that we're going to grab from we're going to pass through from the command line argument, and then whatever response we get from the API, we're going to convert it to a Python dictionary using the JSON method, and then we save it to a user variable. Save it to a user variable, and then to retrieve the to-do list for the given user ID, we are going to be making another HTTP GET request to the to-do endpoint. And while doing it, we are going to include the user ID parameter so that we can target the to-do information for that particular user. So we first create a parameter that we are going to be passing to the request. So we say user ID, and then we pass in the user ID from the command line argument, and then we say we make the request to the API, and then we pass in the URL followed by the endpoint to do, and then we pass in the parameters. Of course, we are going to save this to a variable that we're saying. We call it todo's response. Then we convert this todo's response to a Python dictionary using the .json, and then we save it to, let's call it todo's, to a todo's variable. So then we are going to create an empty list, so that this empty list, we are going to use it to store all of the completed tasks. So we say completed go to this, and then next thing we are going to do is to look through all the to-dos in the to-dos dictionary that we got from the API call. So we say for to-do in to-dos. So we are going to filter out the completed task. We are going to check for all keys with completed task that has the value as true. So we say if to-do dot get we check completed and the value is true, we are going to check all of them that has the value true, and we take the title and append it to completed. Completed dot append. Completed is the empty list that we created to store all of the completed tasks. So we append all to-dos with completed status into completed. And then when we are done, we break out of the loop. So next thing to do is to print out the needed information in the request format for the first line. That is employee Elvin Hall is done with task 8/20, that kind of thing. So say print, it's going to be long, okay, employee followed by employee name is done with task, then followed by the number of completed tasks and total tasks. So we are using the format method. So we pass in user.get, we get the name of the employee, and then we get the length of all tasks, length of the completed task, and then we get the length of all to-dos for that particular employee. Yes. Yeah. So finally, or close to finally, we are going to print the completed tasks one by one with indentation or with tab indentation, tabulation from the requirements here. One tabulation followed by the task title. So to do that, we loop through completed, the list of completed. So when we loop through the list, we are going to print out the title of the completed task. So the one tabulation followed by the name of the title. So we use format, then we pass in complete. Yes. Okay, I think this is it. So let's save and run. So employee 2. Oh my bad. 40. It's crazy how you can miss these sort of things. Not another one. Okay, hold on. Think. Oh my god. Let's check out this. Yeah, sorry about that. So one more time. There you have it. Employee Reverend Howell is done with task 8. So number of completed tasks is 8, and total to do task on the to do is 20. So followed by the title of all completed tasks. So for task 1, we are told to use the same thing we do for the first one to export a script data in a CSV format, and then all we need to put in the CSV format is the record of all tasks owned by an employee. The format should be user ID followed by the username followed by the status of the completed task. It's going to be either true or false, and then the title of the completed task. So file name must be user.csv. That is, if the user ID is 2, it's going to be 2.csv. If it's 10, it's going to be 10.csv. And just so you know, CSV stands for comma separated values. So here we've imported a CSV for writing to a CSV file, and then request for making HTTP GET request, and then sys for grabbing the ID from the command line argument. So here we've already defined the base URL. We are going to be doing this inside the main. So we start by getting the user ID from the command line arguments provided to the script. So we just say user ID. Then we fetch the user information from the API by passing the base URL and the user endpoint with the user ID. So we say user response equal to request dot get. So we pass the URL followed by the endpoint user, passing the user ID from the command line, and then we convert the response to a Python dictionary. User response change.json. So next is to extract the username from the user data and then save to the username variable, because from here we need to get the username. So we already know the user ID, whichever we pass, so we need to grab the username. So we say username is equal to user dot get username. Okay, typical me. What else? So we fetch the to-do list items associated with the given user ID. So we say to do response, come on, is equal to, we make an HTTP request, get request, and then we pass in the URL followed by the to-dos endpoint, to-dos endpoint, and we just pass on the parameters. Previously we created this parameter first and then just pass it. Okay, let's do it like that. Say params code to user ID. Then we pass in the user ID from the command line argument. Yeah. So we pass it to the endpoint, to do endpoint, so we can grab it, and then we convert the response, the to-dos response to a Python dictionary using JSON method, and then we open a CSV file for writing based on the information obtained. So we use with open. Let me just type this out, then I'll explain. CSV so we use the with open function with W mode. W stands for writing, so we want to open this file to write to it, and then the name of this file is going to be the user ID. If it's 2, it's going to be 2.csv. And what else? The new line parameter is used to ensure that no extra new line characters are added when writing to the file. So we are going to use the csv.writer to write data to the CSV file. So we say csv.writer. Before we do this, we are going to save this to variable called writer. So the csv.writer takes the file to write as the first argument, CSV file, which is this file we just opened, takes it as the first argument, and then followed by an optional argument. This one is going to be quoting csv.quote all. So this csv.quote all is an optional argument which is used to put all words filled in quotes, as we see from the example given. So supposed to put everything in quote, the ID should be in quote, the username in quote, completed task status in quote, the completed task title in quote. So that's what this optional argument is for. And then once you write to this, we put all these in quotes. You're going to iterate through all the to-dos list, and we say for to do in to-dos. So for each to-do item, we are going to construct a row to write to the CSV file as from the requirements. So it's supposed to be, first one is user ID, username, task completed status, task title. So we are going to use this writer object that we created here excuse me, to write to the CSV file. So we say writer dot write row. So the write row method is used to write the constructed row to the CSV file. So let's construct. So first say user ID, which is the first one from here. First one should be user ID, followed by the username, then followed by task completed status, which is to do. We say to do dot get completed, and then the last one should be task title. So we say to do dot get title. So I think let's cut this one from here. Yeah. So let's save and run. We are looking let's put the ID 2. Fingers crossed. Okay, let's check 2.csv. So let's see if we there ID 2 followed by the name, completed task status, completed title. So for the second one, we are going to be writing whatever we're going to make API call and exporting to the data in JSON format. So the requirements is to record all tasks that are owned by one employee. So it's going to be the user ID, going to be dictionary with the key as the user ID, and the value is going to be a list that has nested dictionary as elements. So the file name must be user ID.json. If its ID is 2, it's 2.json. If it's 3.3.json. So here we've imported JSON module for writing to JSON file, request for making HTTP GET requests, sys module for grabbing the ID from the command line. And we are going to be doing this inside the main, and then here we've created the base URL. And then as usual, we are going to create a variable called user ID, which we are going to save whatever ID we get from the command line argument to it. Then we are going to fetch other information using the provided employee ID, as we've always been doing. So we just say user is equal to, I want to see if I can be a bit faster this time, if I can stop talking. Passing URL followed by endpoint users. Okay, here we go. Format, we pass in the user ID and then immediately we change, then immediately we convert it to a Python dictionary. So next is to create a dictionary containing the user and to-do list information, but we're going to store it as data to export. We create going to be a dictionary with a key ID, and then the value of this dictionary is going to be a list, but we are yet to fill it in. So to fill it in first, we have to look through all the to-dos for a given ID. So we say for to-do in to-dos. So for each to-do item, we have to create a dictionary called task info. So this task info is going to hold all the required fields. So we say task is supposed to get to do dot okay, the task is supposed to be the title followed by completed, used to do the get all the status of the task, whether it's completed or not, whether it's true or false, and then lastly is to grab the username. And then what else? So we are going to append, for each time we loop through the to-dos, we will append all of these required fields to the user ID. So we say data to export user ID, that is this one here, and then we are going to append the task, this dictionary that we created. Once we loop through it and get the first one, the task, the completed username, we just append it to this one, to the data to export. And then next thing we are going to do is to write the data to a JSON file. So we say with open, whatever we are going to open it as a JSON file, and then first thing we'll pass is the just like we did with the CSV file. This is going to be the name of the JSON file that we are writing to. In other words, it's going to be prefixed with the user ID. If it's 2, it's going to be 2.json. So we pass in the user ID, and then followed by the mode that we want to use. We are going to be writing to the JSON file. So next thing we are going to do is to convert the Python dictionary to a JSON file. We are going to use the json.dump. So we say json.dump. This is used to convert Python dictionary to a JSON file. So it's going to take the first argument. The first argument is typically the content that you want to write. data, which is in our case data to export, and then followed by the file you want to write to, which in our case is Jensen file. That's the one we opened here. We opened the file as Jensen file, but the name is userid.jensen, and then followed by an optional argument indent. So we want this indentation to be 4 just to make it readable and in the same format. So in the same format as required. Let's run this and see. Hope there is no typo. But before we do this, wait. So it's supposed to be a JSON file. So let's grab the fourth one. What did I miss again? Dot append. Oh, my bad. Dot append. What again? User ID is not defined. Oh, okay. Again, to do's is not defined. To do's is not defined. Yeah. So I guess I missed step. After grabbing the user, I didn't even grab the username. Okay, let's grab it. So we are going to grab the username. Sorry about that. User dot get username, and then for to do's, let's say params is equal to, you're creating a parameter to pass to the endpoint, to do's endpoint, which is the user ID. Then we pass in the user ID. Then now we make HTTP GET request for the endpoint, to do's endpoint. Pass in the URL followed by the endpoint, which is to do's, and then followed by the user ID, which is this. So what else did I miss? I think I got it all now. Let's try again. To do the get. Okay. Again, sorry about this. I need to convert this to a Python dictionary using the JSON method. Let's clear show again. Then I think it's worked. So let's check. If we look here, we can see that we've gotten the JSON file here. So let's open and see. That is it. The format is user ID, which is the key, followed by a list, which is the value, and inside this list is just a whole lot of dictionary with task, the title, completed status, username, and the name of the employee. So for the third and the last one, we are still going to make another export to a JSON file, but this time the record is going to be for all employees, and the format is going to be the user ID, that is user ID 1, followed by the username, followed by the task, and then followed by the status of the task completed. Then just like that, username continuously. Then user ID, I think there are 10 users there, so it should be up to 10 users and 10 information. So if that's the case, it means we are going to making 2 requests, one for the user endpoint, the other for the to-dos endpoint. So we've imported JSON for writing to JSON file, request for making HTTP GET requests, and this time you're going to be using a function called fetch data, and then the doc strings. Then this is the base URL. So next is to, since we won't be using no command line argument, so it goes straight to making a GET request for the user endpoint, request.get. Of course, we'll be converting it to, yes, I started to do it so I don't forget like before. So we pass in the URL followed by the users point. So we want to grab all users, that's why we are not passing no ID yet. So then the next thing we do is to create an empty dictionary that is going to contain all the to-do list information of all employees. So say data to sports is equal to an empty dictionary. So we are going to look through the users dictionary that we got from the API. Then let's for user in users. So we are going to grab the ID and save it to user ID. Grab the ID, and then for each time we loop through, we're going to make a request for, so we can get the users to do information, and then of course we convert it to Python dictionary. So we say to do response is equal to request.get, passing the URL plus, so let's just use an F string for this one, to do, passing the endpoint, and then the user ID, passing the user ID. Normally we're supposed to pass in, I think, timeouts, so you don't have to wait indefinitely, but I'm not going to do this here. So once we make the API call and we get the response, we convert it to Python dictionary. Then for each iteration, we pass the user ID as key to the data to export. That's this empty dictionary that we created there. So we are going to pass in a key called user ID as requested from the requirement. So we say user ID, because the key is going to be user for each user, and then the value is going to be a list, and inside this list is going to contain some numbers of dictionaries. And then the next thing we do is to look through the to-dos information for a given user, and then grab the title, completed status, and username as required here. So we say for to do in to do list, let's create, just like we did before, we create a task info, which is going to be a dictionary, and we get the task, we grab to do dot get, what are we getting, the title of the task, and next is the status, which we are going to grab using todos.get. We are grabbing completed, and the last one is username, which we've already grabbed. So we just say, have you grabbed? Okay, it was on the previous one. So we just say user.get username, any other thing. So once we've done this, next thing we do is to append the task info dictionary to the user ID key. So we just say data to export user ID dot append. Oh, I'm not going to forget this time. Passing the task info, and then the value of this user ID is a list of dictionaries containing each user's to do information. So, and then this data to export is going to, for each time it loops through the users, it's going to get user with the ID 1. It's going to grab all this information and it's going to get it. It does the same for 2, 3 until it gets through all the IDs in the endpoint. And then, of course, we have to return the dictionary data to export. So next thing we are going to do is to go to our main. You can still do yours inside the script. Data to export. So we call the fetch function here, and just save it to a variable data to export in the main. And then of course we have to write this. Let me push. We have to write this to a JSON file, convert the dictionary to a JSON file. So like before, we use the open as JSON file. So we've been told that I think the name of this one is going to be, name of the file is going to be this. So we paste it here. It's going to be to do allemployees.json. So of course we open this file in a write mode, and then we use json.dump like we used before, and then pass in the data that we want to write, which is data to export, followed by the file we want to write to, JSON file, yes, which is this one, and then followed by an optional argument, which is indent, of course, to make it readable. So save and exit. Let's run this. What did I do here? Fetch user data for user in user. Okay. Let me see. Say something about, okay, supposed to, for user in users. My God. Okay. Start again. What else? To do response.json. Response.json is not callable. Oh. Where is it? Sorry guys for all this. Another call. We're waiting and waiting. Okay, so there you have it. So that is it. If you find this video helpful, please like and subscribe if you're